Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and much appreciated you guys swinging by the channel and spending some time with me. Today, guys, I want to give you guys some tips and advice on how to catch bass in the fog and some general fog safety tips, because fall time of the year, at the time of filming this video, we're in about the second week of October. This is the time of year you're going to get a lot of fog. You know, the water temperatures are still pretty warm in a lot of places across the country, in the 70s for the most part, even in the 80s some. And the cooler nights creates a lot of fog, so you're going to have to deal with that probably at some point. Going to get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, a couple quick things to remind you of. Solar Bat still has the end of summer sale going on my RB2s and RB3 series signature glasses. If you guys would like to order a pair, right now you can get them at 30% off, including a free hard case from Solar Bat. You can get them by going to my Solar Bat link in the description of this video, or my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video if you guys would like to get a pair. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that's taken time to hit that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. Really appreciate that. Okay, guys, fog is something you're going to have to deal with if you fish a lot, and especially if you fish tournaments, because, you know, most people that fish for fun, you can pretty much decide when you want to go. And a lot of times if it's foggy in the morning, you know, you can wait till it burns off or go later. But a lot of times in tournaments, what happens is there may or may not be a fog delay in a tournament. But like what happened to me at that last tournament up at Lake of the Ozarks, the second day of the tournament, I was running up the river and it was clear. There was no fog, you know, on the lower end of the lake. But when I got up the river, it was thick as pea soup. So you may have to deal with it inadvertently throughout the course of a day's fishing. So let's talk a little bit about some tips and advice. First of all, how to catch fish in it, and a little bit of safety stuff here. Basically, clouds, or not basically, they are fog. Fog is basically a cloud on the water. So anytime that you have a low light condition, you're going to have anytime that you're going to have fog, you're going to have the same situation as a cloudy day or a low light condition. And the thing that goes with fog is that every time that you have fog, usually you have little to no wind. That's what creates the fog to begin with, is not having any wind. So the characteristic of a foggy day is that a lot of times, you know, it's very low light condition depending upon the density of the fog, and not much wind. Those are the fishing conditions you have, and it's early in the morning. Given that, bass, the thing that is odd about bass on a foggy day is they don't they don't bite the same if it's foggy versus if it's cloudy or rainy. Let's say, for example, if you're fishing down a nice bank or coming up on a point and it's a cloudy, rainy day with no fog, the bass, they tend to be a little bit more active. But one of the things I found out about fog is when you have fog, even if it's a thick fog, the bass are not quite as aggressive with that low light condition. And I think it's just the characteristic of the fog versus what a cloud condition looks like. I'm not really sure. I don't really understand how it impacts the bass, but I know in general, the bass don't bite quite as good in the same type of situation. In other words, say, for example, what I'm trying to say is say you're on a good topwater bite on a cloudy, rainy day, you're catching them on a Zara spook or something. If you have a foggy day in that type of a scenario, a lot of times they're not going to bite quite as good as they would on a cloudy day without fog. And a lot of times I have seen that is when you have a foggy day, it's clear, you know, outside of the fog. So the density of the clouds are different. On a cloudy, rainy day, you may have a real thick density, and you may have some big, thick cumulus clouds. But on a foggy day, it may be bluebird sky out, and it's just foggy underneath it. So you have some different elements of barometric pressure. And I think that's one of the big things about it is the bass can sense that barometric pressure. Okay, now the first thing as far as catching bass in fog, you do have to approach it just like you're in a low light condition. So anytime that it's foggy, a lot of time, most all the time, when if it's foggy, I'm using some type of a reaction bait, moving bait, spinner bait, chatter bait, crank bait, you know, swim bait, glide bait, you know, something like that. Simply because I think the fish do chase a little bit more. They are roaming a little bit more. Unless we happen to get a foggy day like in the springtime of the year, then I'll maybe start with just a jig. But probably, one of the best fog baits that you can fish is a spinnerbait. I catch more fish on a spinnerbait in the fog than I do a topwater lure for some reason. It just seems like it works a lot better. And as far as the areas to fish in fog, you don't have a big selection of the areas, because depending upon the density of the fog, you can't just like run around like you would normally, because you can't really see where you're going. Yeah, you can look at your GPS and you can say, okay, there's a point coming up here, but you still can't identify that very well. Again, depending upon the density of the fog. The density of the fog is a big deal, because it tells you how fast you can go, how fast you can move. Just the visual aspect of the density of fog has a big part of how you're going to approach that. Most of the time, what I do in a fog, if I run into a thick fog bank or something, guys, I'm not looking for a place to fish. I just pull over at the nearest place to get out of the way, because I don't want another boat, to possibly collide with me. So I pull over at the nearest bank and just start fishing. That's another reason why a lot of times you don't catch as many fish in the fog, is because you don't land on the best places. You just land wherever you can land. And sometimes you may land on a really good area and catch some fish. Other times you may not. Probably the most consistent place that I have, the two most consistent places I've caught bass during the fog, and just because I happen to pull up on it, is a riprap bank or a point. If there's any way that you can get to a riprap bank or a point, if it's foggy out, those are really two good places to start out. So anyway, this is something you're not going to have to deal with for a long time. And most fog delays, they're done, within 2 or 3 hours. But guys, I want to reiterate one thing. It's like, if you're in a foggy situation and you're faced with a foggy situation, do not put yourself in jeopardy. Now, you can safely run in fog depending upon the density of it. If the fog isn't real dense, you can go like at an idle speed, or you can even run like 15 miles an hour on planes safely if you have enough visibility in front of you. The speed and just the fact that you're going to actually get out there and run on the lake has everything to do with the density. If you're in a thick, dense situation, a pea soup fog situation, do not risk it, guys. Do not risk it. Go over to the bank and just start fishing until you have enough safety where, here's what you have to picture out. Imagine there's some goober that is just an idiot and he's driving 40 or 50 miles an hour in the fog. You have got to assume you've got some idiot that's running at you. You can't see him, but he's running right at you at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. You have to have enough reaction time to get away from that idiot. So that's what you have to always look at, is always imagine a boat is coming right at you, and how fast of a reaction time do you have to get away from that boat. Don't take any chances whatsoever. If you don't think you have enough reaction time, given the density of the fog, pull it over to the bank and don't try it. And guys, if you're one of those idiots out there that insist on running in the fog faster than it's safe, you don't have any business fishing, because it's the most dangerous thing in the world. Don't expect, just because you think you can look at your GPS and know where you're going, and you're looking up in front of you and you can see 50 foot in front of you, don't expect to think that you're okay, because you're not. You don't know what's up there. You don't know if there's a log floating in the water, if there's a boat coming your way, if there's a barge coming your way. You don't know anything that's going on. So never take a chance with fog. Fog is probably the most dangerous situation you're going to encounter while you're fishing in a bass boat. So anyway, guys, that's just a few tips with it. Like I said, I don't like fishing in the fog if I can get away with it, but sometimes we have to deal with it, and that's usually how I approach it. So hope it helps out. We'll see you guys.